We had a big project the other day, moving all of these books from our library to the yellow room. I found a gold nugget while we did that. I found my old copy of Ulysses, which I had been looking for. I haven't read it in a long time. In fact, just opened up the pages a couple of minutes ago. What I remember about, one of the things I remember most about it is the Molly Bloom soliloquy at the end of the book. It's all single-spaced. There's no punctuation. It's over 40 pages long. And in a way, when I was writing the soliloquy of the Queen in her own words, it was allowing Sheila to express her own opinions and to rant and rave, not unlike Molly Bloom. I have to be honest with you, I was just reading some of the pages in here, and it is very explicit in sexual innuendo, and no wonder the book was banned, or in some quarters. So Ulysses from the bookshelf, James Joyce, a titan of literature and a great influence on all writers. All right, well, let's go to the story. The story today is Cyclops. Everyone believed Miguel lost his eye in a Tijuana fight. "You should have seen the other guy," he boasted. Miguel lost his footing and fell face first into protruding wires at Joe's, who rushed him to Palomar Hospital's emergency room, where surgeons couldn't save his eye, mangled so badly they removed it. Miguel returned to work with a black patch, earning the name El Pirata. Working with wire is dangerous, the one-eyed boss knew. When tight wire is cut, it's a metal whip with a fierce tip, gashing your skin, or worse. Miguel had his guys pull wire without goggles from a large heavy spool at the end of a row. He looped it around the end post with craftsman's hands as easily as tying shoes. He was an artist taming wire. Even Sheila admired his work. He hammered a horseshoe-shaped fastener into the end post, keeping the wire ring neatly in place, then took the end and twisted it around the line, only a half-inch of tip exposed. After the accident, he and his crew continued to connect and tighten wires with gripples, without covering wires' end tips. Instead of wrapping wire around each end post, he could have drilled a hole through the post, inserted the wire, and attached the Loctite fastener on the other end so the wire would never slip backwards. Even Paul could do that. When Paul tried to replicate Miguel's wire wrapping, the result was a mess, like the first time he tried to tie his shoes in preschool. "Hey, Paul, you want me to fix those wires for you? They don't look too good," Miguel offered while poaching an orange. "No, thank you. You don't know how to wire." "You take too long to wire. It's not necessary to do it your way. I can drill holes through the pole and insert wires myself." "Do you want me to redo the whole vineyard for you? I can bring over a couple of guys and we'll do it." "No, thank you." "Those poplar trees are too tall and blocking sunlight from your vines. Do you want me to send over a couple of guys to cut them down?" "No, thank you." "You need to take better care of this place. You got too many weeds. Let me send over a couple of guys to spray them." "You need to stay off this place, and it will get better." "When are you going to get another dog?" "When are you going to start paying taxes?" "I pay tax every time I buy a beer. Can you give me a beer?" "No." "How about a bottle of wine?" "I know you got a lot of wine because you can't sell it." On a steep part of the vineyard, Sheila raked scattered stems, sticks, and stalks left behind by her husband, slipped, and fell towards the row of vines, below where a wire tip pierced her eye. Paul heard her cry and rushed her to La Jolla Scripps Hospital, where her ophthalmologist met them and treated her. "You're lucky," the doctor explained. "The wire missed the key part of your eye, and I expect you to regain your sight. I'm treating it with an antibiotic. You need to apply this ointment and these drops every day. Schedule an appointment a week from now, and call me if it gets worse. You're going to be all right." As they drove home, Sheila, her eye covered with a patch, accused Paul. "Are you trying to kill me?" "Thank goodness you'll be able to see again." "I can't see a thing. It hurts." He hadn't heard her say it hurts since the evening her body shut down, her heart stopped, and she visited heaven. He knew she was in pain. When a wire is cut, The two strands are reconnected by a gripple, and the tensioning tool holds the gripple in place while tightening the wire. It took Sheila several years to figure out how to use the tensioning tool, but Paul, who couldn't tie a slip knot, out of necessity learned how to tighten wires so he could replace rotted end posts, or those he smashed with a truck, without calling Miguel, to avoid his insults and save money. After the wire is tightened, excess wire sticking out the gripple is cut, and what's left was wrapped around the wire like a barber's pole stripe. Paul traversed the vineyard 2 years before, covering each exposed wire tip with a protective cap for safety. What were the odds the cap would fall off at the spot Sheila fell? "You look like Miguel with that patch," Paul joked. "You can both rot in hell. Why didn't you put a cap on the tip of that wire? If you had done that, this wouldn't have happened. I know you're trying to kill me." 6 days later, on Saturday evening, Sheila complained her eye hurt more. Paul called the doctor. "How does she feel?" the doctor asked. "She says it hurts." "Of course it hurts. Is her vision any worse?" "She says she can't see." "Is the pain worse?" "She says it hurts more and she thinks it's infected." "You better bring her in." As the sun set, Paul drove Sheila 35 miles to Zymed Medical Center, adjacent to the hospital, and waited outside the doctor's office, as all staff were off for the weekend. He arrived, unlocked the door, and escorted Sheila into the examination room. "You're going to be all right," he assured her after looking at her. "What seems to be the matter?" asked Paul. "Endophthalmitis." "What's that?" "Her eye's infected, but she's going to be all right. It's a good thing you brought her here. The hospital's pharmacy is closed, and the only way we can get the medicine to save her eye is from the emergency room." So the three of them, with the clock ticking, walked briskly from the doctor's office through a maze of hospital corridors and wings to reach the emergency room, where the doctor had privileges, showed his ID, and requested the medication. "I can't provide you with that unless she's a patient of the emergency room," said the receptionist. "The patient's right here," said the doctor. "I see that, but she needs to be checked in." This was no time to argue about the absurdity of admitting her and emergency room fees, so Paul pulled out his insurance card to sign her in. After 30 minutes, a nurse brought a vial of antibiotics to the doctor, and the three walked back to his office. He asked Sheila to sit down, and she asked, "Would you mind washing your hands before touching my eye?" He washed his hands and prepared 2 injections. "First, I'm going to numb your eye. This is going to hurt," he warned. Paul cringed when Sheila moaned as the needle pierced the white flesh of her eyes to release the numbing medication. "That's it, just a moment longer. Oh, it hurts," she whined after he removed the needle. "Just one more and we're finished." With a steady hand, he inserted the needle into her eye as she moaned. He injected the antibiotic. "You're going to be all right," the doctor reassured her, as Sheila's groans stopped. "An eye can be damaged quickly, but takes a long time to heal. Call me if it gets worse. In this business, if it's not getting worse, that's good." Back at the house, Sheila was in constant pain, despite the soothing medication Paul dripped into her eye mornings and evenings. She wore sunglasses inside, and Paul kept the curtains down during the day to keep the house as dark as possible. In a blink, Paul imagined how his life, their lives, could change. What if her sight doesn't return? Can she drive with one eye? Can she work in the vineyard with one eye? How can I manage the vineyard and house without her help? Maybe it's time to move to an apartment. And for a man who had imagined spending his retirement years with the vines, his dream was turning into a nightmare, and wondered if it was time to wake up and get out.